Hey guys, welcome back.
Hi everyone!
And happy Halloween! We planned our entire, is it weird to call it a season?
Honestly, no. This is
a season!
Yeah, this is season one.
Yeah, anyway, we planned our season around having this episode on Halloween, and we did it, and it's happening, and it's special. And theme song.
Paranormal girls into normal things. A paranormal girls into normal things. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Paranormal Girls. I'm Christy,
And I'm Alex.
and we are about to embark on a journey.
It is a journey that we have only dreamed of. And I feel like it's gonna feel like coming home,
Yeah, I agree.
you know?
I agree. We are off to Salem, Massachusetts. We are all COVID negative and ready to rumble. We have brought our producer, Caroline. Say hi, Caroline.
Hey.
And here we go.
We took a trip to Salem, and it was quite an enlightening experience.
It was
I don't
dope.
know about you, but I had ideas about what Salem was gonna be like, and this was really just was not anything like I expected.
Today, we want to give you a full scope. So as we said, we took a trip to Salem in preparation for our episode on the Salem Witch Trials. So,
Because of COVID regulations, had to plan a lot of activities, all of our activities basically ahead of time. Because you have to make appointments at the different places right now. So we made a few appointments, went to a few different really cool places.
Hey guys, so we just went to Wicked Good Books, formerly known as, I think, the Derby Bookstore, built over Salem's underground tunnel system, which is supposedly haunted. People have been known to see shadow figures, apparitions, books flying off the shelves.
We
stuff
saw none
like
of that shit.
Can you tell me if you feel anything in here?
I don't.
Nothing happened, but I did get this. I'm gonna learn how to cook like the dames of Salem.
So get ready for a pretty wicked cooking episode. So stay tuned for more.
We tried to get a tarot reading, and it failed. So yeah, we were a little disappointed.
but I remembered that my very, very, very good friend, Jason, just started an amazing Instagram / YouTube / Etsy account where basically his business is his incredible talent for tarot reading. And he gave us an incredible reading, and we're gonna show it to you guys. It was a past life reading. So he was talking to us about our past lives, and it was...
It's truly amazing, and 10 out of 10. We put his, we linked all of his stuff down in the description.
Yeah.
Definitely go check it out.
You have to check him out. If you have ever wanted to get a tarot reading or thought about getting a tarot reading and been like, I don't know, like, who can I trust? He's the one to go to. But first, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the Salem Witch Trials. The Salem Witch Trials were a trip. It all began in 1692 when a group of young girls claimed to be possessed after experiencing witchcraft from a couple local women who they claimed were witches. Let me explain. In January of 1692, 9-year-old Betty Paris and 11-year-old Abigail Williams, who were the daughter and niece of Salem Village Puritan minister Reverend Samuel Paris, began to feel ill. Ill meaning they were making weird sounds, huddling under furniture, clutching their heads. They were having spasms, or they would go completely limp. Did you like my spasm? Or they would writhe and scream and complain of invisible agents biting and pinching them. And their father / uncle, Reverend Paris, was extremely concerned, and he was fasting and praying, trying Everything he knew how to do, but nothing he did worked.
Damn.
If you can believe. Salem was not the only town that was going witch crazy. I mean, they mention witches in the Bible, kind of. They would say Exodus 22:18, "You shall not permit a sorceress to live." And Leviticus 19:31, "A man or woman who is a medium or necromancer shall surely be put to death. They shall be stoned with stones," that's redundant, "and their blood shall be upon them." So Salem was an extremely religious community. This particular community was kind of run by the Puritans. And this was during a time when across the board, Europe and other colonies were very suspicious of witches. And it's important to note that in 1641, Massachusetts colonists had just developed their own legal code. In this order, the first capital offense was idolatry, and the second was witchcraft, which was punishable by death. This was like the second thing they thought of. Then blasphemy, then murder, then poisoning, and then bestiality.
Don't be fucking goats. But first, don't be a witch.
Why is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th on your list, you weirdos? What were you doing? That should just illustrate to you that their legal system was
Their priorities are out of whack.
bullshit. In the following years, in Massachusetts, not just in Salem, more than 100 people were put to death for witchcraft. A quarter of them were men. And I don't know if that's gonna surprise you or not. I think a lot of people think this was like just something that happened to women, and that's not true.
We took a walk while we were in Salem. We took a walk around the memorials for the witches, where in the square where they were literally killing them. And there are, as you will see in the video that I'm showing you currently, there are plaques, tombs for all of these female witches, and there are a few male names that are on there, and they describe the death. Most of them were hangings, I believe.
Yeah, most of them are hangings.
But then there was ones that were like pressed to death.
Yeah.
Which, what is that?
Yeah, we'll get into
What does that mean?
all the fun ways they died. Minister Cotton Mather
His first name is Cotton.
Yeah.
Change that.
He was kind of the one who brought the witch craze to Salem. He had been involved in some other cases that were the first witch cases in Salem, because Salem didn't have the first witch trials in Massachusetts. There had been 2 or 3 cases before that. This was happening across the board. And fun fact, there were no witches burned at the stake at the Salem Witch Trials. I don't know if you know that. That's something that I think happened elsewhere, but that's not a Salem thing. Fun
I think that
fact.
might have been New Orleans.
Back to our girls in Salem. We got Betty, we got Abigail. So the minister, their dad/uncle, Paris, invited other clergymen into his home to pray for the recovery of the girls, who they feared were possessed. And the clergymen could see that it wasn't working, so they left. And Reverend Paris called some doctors. So a local doctor named William Griggs diagnosed the girls with bewitchment.
That's a diagnosis?
That's the official diagnosis, was bewitchment.
Can I be diagnosed with that now?
No.
Fuck.
No. And just for context, doctors at the time were extremely limited. Salem Village had 1 practicing physician, and he owned 9 medical texts, and he could likely read but not write. And his surgical arsenal consisted of lances, razors, and saws.
Even if he was able to properly diagnose her, would have had no way of treating them.
Right. He would have been like,
I guess I'll saw
something off.
it off.
So they got diagnosed with bewitchment, and after this diagnosis kind of got around the town, other young girls in the community began to exhibit similar symptoms, including Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, Elizabeth Hubbard, Mary Walcott, and Mary Warren, to name a few. And it really started to affect primarily young girls, like children. Everyone was really feeling like it was witchcraft. Betty and Abigail accused 3 women, and these were the first women to be accused in Salem. And one of them was an enslaved indigenous woman from the Caribbean that the Paris family brought over. Her name was Tituba. I don't know if you've heard of her. Mm-hmm. And then the other 2 were local women. One was a homeless beggar named Sarah Good, and the other was a poor elderly widow named Sarah Osborne. So they were all charged with witchcraft. Essentially, the primary targets throughout the whole of the witch trials were just marginalized groups within the community. So like enslaved people and poor people and homeless people and old people and widows and disabled people, etc. But honestly, no one was safe from the witch trials. It really affected everybody. They killed some dogs even.
How do you think a dog is a witch? What did they do? My dog started floating.
Right, they were like twitching. The people of Salem saw the presence of witches as an indicator of their like general holiness as a town. And Minister Cotton Mather was quoted as saying, "Where will the devil show most malice, but where he is hated, and hateth the most?" So the trials began, and the 3 accused women were brought before the magistrates, Jonathan Corwin and John Hathorne, and they were questioned, like seriously interrogated, like for multiple days. The Paris girls were brought before the court to testify, and they really put on a show. They were twitching and convulsing and screaming on the stand, and it really convinced everybody. I mean, I'm not saying these girls were faking it necessarily. Personally, I believe in witchcraft. I don't necessarily believe it's what you might think like the Hollywood version of it looks like, but certainly I believe that there are many, many forms of witchcraft, and I think that all things are possible. Yeah, I don't think that's what really was happening here. I think it was mostly just persecution for persecution's sake
I mean,
to
like
a certain extent.
like even just looking at the people that they did these things to, like they just wanted to get rid of them. And then we're justifying it by saying like we are godly and
Right.
these people are ungodly and they gotta go.
It was really just anybody who went against the structure of the church that they had laid out in the town. And then it was also kind of random. Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne denied their guilt. Sarah Good was quoted as saying during her trial that she was as much a witch as the judge was a wizard. But Tituba allegedly confessed and claimed that she and the two other women, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, were working on behalf of the devil to essentially work his magic on the people of Salem. And allegedly, I mean, I'm saying allegedly because we're getting this information like, we know who wrote history here, right? And also, she was being interrogated for multiple days. And also, she was giving up their names. Like, she was saying, yes, it was them too. And they were giving, like, lesser sentences and typically not executing people who were naming names. So after 3 days of interrogation, in vivid testimony, apparently, she described encounters with Satan's animal familiars and with a tall, dark man from Boston who had called upon her to sign the devil's book, in which she saw the names of Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, along with those of 7 others that she could not read. So at this time, a ton of other people started getting accused, mostly marginalized members of the community, mostly women, but some were like prominent, highly respected, rich members of the community, such as Martha Corey and Rebecca Nurse, who were members of the church and community. And Sarah Good's 4-year-old daughter was also accused of being a witch.
I remember hearing
that's
about that
adorable.
as we were skulking around Salem when I was eavesdropping on tours, saying that Rebecca Nurse was a huge turning point for the Salem Witch Trials because she was so respected and loved by the community.
Yeah.
That it really shook the entire town.
Yeah. Because, I mean, up until that point, it was sort of a way to get rid of the, like, poor person that you didn't want to
So
deal with.
people didn't care.
Yeah. And at this point, like, people are really scared. The witches were like the Rona. Like, people were really, like, staying inside, like, hiding their kids. But after Rebecca Nurse, they were not only scared of, like, witches taking over their daughters, they're now scared of, like, oh my gosh, am I going to be accused of being a witch? This started to really take over the court system to the point where the governor of Massachusetts at the time ordered an official court to be created to just handle witch trials. So other women like Tituba started to confess to witchcraft and name other witches. The accused were forced to defend themselves. They were not given legal counsel of any kind.
Cool.
Even if they were given the opportunity to testify, whoever accused them would be sitting in the gallery, like writhing and screaming the whole time. To them, that was proof. So they had a couple of fun tests.
Yay.
To see whether or not you were a witch. Witch cakes.
Yum.
They would make a cake out of rye meal, rye was a very common grain at the time in Salem. Remember this.
Cool.
Rye meal and urine from the afflicted girls, the bewitched girls. They would feed the cake to a dog, and at which point the witch should scream out in pain, for she sent particles of herself into the afflicted girls when she bewitched them, which would transfer into the urine that was put into the witch cakes when the girls peed, and when the dog would eat it, the witch cake would act as a voodoo doll. The witch should be writhing in pain.
I don't know if I will ever know such creativity.
So if that didn't work, another indication was if the dog started to experience any symptoms, then they're a witch.
Well, they did just eat some pee, but go off, sis.
Spectral evidence. This is not really a test, but this is really key in the trials. This was like the main piece of evidence that most of the accusers used. And spectral evidence was when the accusers would claim that they saw the witch in their dreams or in visions doing the devil's bidding. And they really ended up convicting a lot of people with this. This was later like outlawed, and it ended up kind of effectively killing the trials. Witch's teat or a witch's mark, any sort of mole or unusual skin blemish that all witches, I guess, have. And if the teat was pricked with, if the witch's mark was pricked with a needle and the recipient didn't bleed or feel it, then they're a witch. And the needle was often purposefully dulled just so that it like wouldn't break the skin and they wouldn't bleed. And then it's like, oh look, they are so cold and unfeeling. They are a witch. The Lord's Prayer test is another one. The accused would be made to recite the Lord's Prayer without error, including stumbling or stammering, and any mistakes at all, you're a witch. The touch test. The accused would be instructed to place a hand on the afflicted individual who would be convulsing and such. And if the bewitched suddenly became calm and stopped exhibiting symptoms, then obviously the toucher is a witch. Final test. There were a couple more, but this is like the main one. Submersion. The accused would be tied up at the hands and feet, and heavy rocks would be attached, and they would be thrown into a body of water. And if they floated, then they're a witch. But if they sank,
They're
then,
dead.
oh my gosh, it was a person, but they're dead now. So on June 2nd, 1692, the court handed down its first conviction against Bridget Bishop, and she was sentenced to death by hanging. And this took place in a place in Salem that would become known as Gallows Hill. On July 19th, 5 more convicted witches were hanged, including Rebecca Nurse, who was our first rich lady, and Sarah Good, who was one of our OG accused. Men were accused of being witches too, including George Burroughs, who had served as a minister in Salem from 1680 to 1683. And George was summoned from his home in Maine. He didn't even freaking live in Salem anymore. They brought him back and accused him of being the witches' ringleader. So George was executed by hanging along with 4 others on August 19th. And as George was standing in the gallows, he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly, which, as we know, witches aren't supposed to be able to do, but this dude was a minister. So people are coming to these executions to watch. It's the freaking town show.
Yeah.
And so as he's reciting the Lord's Prayer perfectly, people are like, oh my gosh, he is clearly not a witch. And our friend Cotton Mather is like, kill him. So on September 22nd, 8 more convicted people were hanged, including one of our Richie friends named Martha Corey. And her husband, Giles, who was also accused of being a witch, he was killed by, they had him lie under a board, and then they put stones one by one on top of the board. And it took 2 days, but he died.
That's pressed to death.
Our friend Cotton Mather's father, Increase Mather, who was a prominent minister in Boston, and he was actually the president of Harvard University at the time, he condemned spectral evidence. And that was followed by Governor Phipps of Massachusetts on October 29th, officially declared no more spectral evidence. And after that, it became very hard, apparently, to convict witches. Eventually, the trials came to an end on May of 1693. But so the occult was something that, like, just in general majorly freaked out Puritan communities. And so I think the witch trials may have been an inevitability at the time because it was just kind of happening everywhere. I mean, inevitability, y'all could have not, but like it really was happening across the globe. A study published in Science magazine in 1976 cited the fungus ergot, which is commonly found in rye, wheat, and other cereals, especially back in the day when like they couldn't preserve things correctly. This particular fungus, which was common on these types of grains, remember rye, they claim this fungus can cause symptoms such as delusions, vomiting, muscle spasms. People call this nature's LSD. This whole thing is just the result of an unchecked justice system. But I do think it's very cool that what was once like a very hostile environment for anything outside the norm has turned into this incredible safe haven for all things occult, all things witchy, all things paranormal, y'all.
Yeah, I really think that it's been taken back by the people that would have been targeted.
Yeah.
The people that walk around the streets of Salem would not, obviously, like, would not have been able to walk
Hell no.
in these ways, like, as openly.
Yeah.
Like, it's at every turn. And honestly, like, yeah, like, the town is very kitschy, and I talk about this, like,
Yeah.
as we were around, but, like, that's gonna happen with any town that's trying to make money for their thing. There was a lot of pain in these streets. Like, you felt
Oh, yeah.
the pain. There's sadness, like, literally, like, emanating from the ground, like, because there was just so much senseless murder, but
Yeah.
it is just so, honestly, it is incredible the way that this town picked itself up and is now celebrating the people that were so poorly treated.
This has been a very, very enlightening experience. This feels like sort of just like a hub for anyone who sort of is fascinated by or loves the occult. I've been seeing a lot of different types of people, which is cool because I think obviously it all started with the Salem Witch Trials, but it's very cool that it's like branched into a bunch of different things for people, and now it means whatever it means for you. Yeah, I mean, this place is full of history, and it definitely feels like there is a lot of energy here.
I didn't feel it in that bookstore though at all. I feel like a lot of places here like might say that they're haunted just so people go in.
Yeah.
Which it worked. We went in. I went in. I was really scared that like my coven look was gonna be too much here. You know, I brought like my glasses. I got the whole. But this is nothing. They're
Full blown like hocus pocus.
yeah,
costume.
full costumes. And I don't think these people are tourists either. Like a lot of them I feel like just live here and hang out like that. Which is so dope. Yeah, so we have really soon we have our spellcasting class, which I'm stoked about. I'm gonna take these off now. Yeah, should be really fun. It's with a licensed witch. I don't know yet if we're gonna be able to do any photography or videography when we're in there, but we're certainly gonna try.
And we'll tell you about it, by the way.
Hell yeah.
There are a lot of practicing witches that live there now and work there now, and like you really honestly, like I'm sure at this point like the practicing witches have done so many like protection spells over the town, and you really could feel like just a vibration over, I don't know, the whole place. It was really palpable.
So now, as you've seen, we took our own little guided tour around Salem. safely, cautiously
Guided by
in these
us.
COVID times, self-guided. Our witch class with our licensed witch was very interesting. We walked away with these little ropey guys that hold our spell. So during our class, we performed a spell guided by this witch, and we were told to burn them, to destroy them in some way. And we wanted to do that in front of you guys.
So we just got out of the spell casting. I personally thought it was really, really cool. She really walked you through like the basics of spell casting, opening your circle, inviting in all the elements, how to close your circle, thanking the elements. We all cast our own spell. What did you think, Alex?
So, like, Salem's really cool. It's really cool. It's just very kitschy. I would have believed the witch a lot more if she was not dressed like a cat.
She was dressed like a cat, but nothing she was, as far as just the basic spell casting, that was all
I
accurate,
just,
to be
like,
clear.
I was
Yeah.
struggling to stay focused. I really wanted to focus all of my Scorpio energy into this thing. And I was having a lot of trouble doing that because there was like a haunted house happening next door.
We could hear screams.
Yeah, so it was a lot of distractions.
Can't tell you what spells we cast because that weakens them. It's working magic, you know? That means we have to put in the effort too. But
I think that makes me a licensed witch now, doesn't it?
unclear how to get your witch's license.
Yeah, so I really, really loved our trip. I hope that post-COVID times we'll be able to take a trip back and really experience everything that Salem has to offer. The tarot readings were very enlightening. It was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that we got to do them with Jason, actually. Like, it would have been cool to do them in Salem, but like, there's something cool about doing it with someone that you know and trust. So highly recommend getting yourself a tarot reading with Jason, and we'll see you guys in November.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween!